Welcome to Asia Outlook. I'm Melody and I'm here to report the top stories from around Asia. Chinese President Xi Jinping attended the G20 virtual summit on COVID-19 on Thursday via video conference from Beijing. Let's take a look.
新冠肺炎疫情正在全球蔓延，国际社会最需要的是坚定信心、齐心协力、团结应对，全面加强国际合作，凝聚起战胜疫情强大合力，携手赢得这场人类同重大传染性疾病的斗争。
Asian countries are taking more measures to curb the COVID-19 pandemic. In China, Hubei province, the epicenter of the country's epidemic, has relaxed travel restrictions. Residents outside the city of Wuhan are now able to leave the province. Meanwhile, authorities have reported no new local cases across Hubei for a second day. In Japan, the government says it will set up a special task force to curb the spread of the virus. Health experts in Indonesia has warned that the country could become a new epicenter for the disease as there was an extreme shortage of hospital beds, medical staffs, and intensive care facilities. The delay of the Tokyo Olympics will come at a hefty price tag for Japan's economy. Estimates put that figure in that billions of US dollars. Besides ticket losses from the sporting events themselves, lost revenues from sponsors, broadcasters, suppliers, and tourism all factor in the cost of postponement. CGTN Xiao Chen has more.
The 2020 Tokyo Olympics had attracted 62 sponsors by last June, gaining more than $3 billion from local brands. However, the one-year postponement now becomes a disaster for them as they have to put off their advertising plans. The Japan Times reports that the economic loss will be about $5.8 billion. Another newspaper, the Nihon Keizai Shimbun, says the loss is between 5.4 and 6.3 billion.
Of course, there will be costs. As for how much, we have no figures at this point in time. And as for who will shoulder those costs, that is something we need to consider going forward.
Units in the Olympic Village were to be sold as apartments after the Games, and many have already been sold with them set to be converted by 2023. That will now be put on hold, and many buyers are asking for compensation. The main media center and the International Broadcasting Center are facing the same problem. That's because during space rented from the Tokyo International Exhibition Center, that space is already being rented out to a different organization next year. The labor cost is another issue as 3,000 staff have been employed in the Tokyo Olympic Committee. There also are some short-term contractors who will now need to be kept on. The situation would worsen if the Tokyo Olympic Games are cancelled with economic losses estimated as high as $41 billion. Xia Cheng, CGTN.
As India's number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 tops 500, the government has announced a nationwide lockdown for at least 21 days. CGTN Neha Punia has more from Delhi.
For the next 3 weeks, all of India and its 1.3 billion people will be subject to a complete nationwide lockdown. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a televised address to the nation. Prime Minister Modi has said that every Indian must stay indoors even if they're not sick and not displaying symptoms of COVID-19.
From midnight, there will be a complete lockdown in the whole country. There will be a total ban on venturing out of houses from midnight. To save India, to save every citizen of India, to save you and your family.
He's urged all Indians to forget what it's like to go outside for the next 21 days. He said the extreme measures were necessary because India must avoid what's happening in Italy and the United States right now, where cases have been increasing exponentially on a daily basis. He reminded Indians that developed nations with stronger healthcare facilities have been unable to stop the virus's spread, which is why it's imperative that India not wait for a mass breakout before implementing stricter measures. The Prime Minister's speech triggered panic buying in most parts of India. He later had to tweet to clarify that all essential services like pharmacies, hospitals, grocery stores will continue to operate. The government, though, is urging businesses to deliver essentials to the doorstep of citizens to limit the movement of people. The Indian government has also responded to criticism that India's healthcare system, with low funding and stretched resources, needs to be augmented. Prime Minister Modi said his government will be spending nearly $2 billion in the coming weeks on buying testing kits, hazmat suits, ventilators and training medical staff. India has some of the lowest testing rates in the world, but the government says mass testing is not needed right now because it will only lead to more panic on the ground. Neha Punia, CGTN, New Delhi.
A 61-year-old shoe repairer voluntarily set up a box to collect used masks from local residents in Yankuang City, North China Jiangxi province. The move is aimed at preventing people from casually throwing away used masks, which might result in contamination.
受到我们4个企业、好多企业的配合支持啊，一去不散，这个回收废弃口罩咱就不停止。
Meanwhile, the Russia president has given a televised address to the nation a day after he visited a hospital in Moscow treating coronavirus patients. Putin said it was impossible for a country of Russia's size to completely contain the spread of COVID-19. However, he asked people to stay at home where possible and pledge government support for businesses and people who lost their jobs because of the virus. Putin also said next month's referendum on constitutional changes would be postponed. Chinese President Xi Jinping has also spoken on the phone with his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump about the coronavirus pandemic. Let's take a listen.
Friday's call was the second between Xi and Trump this year, and the two presidents expressed a commitment to cooperation, which President Xi believes is crucial in fighting the pandemic.
Now is a crucial moment, a time for us to rise up to challenge and act with swiftness. I am convinced that through solidarity and mutual assistance, we will prevail over this outbreak, and we all will embrace a brighter future for mankind.
President Xi said that at a G20 video summit on Thursday. In his speech, he called for the international community to strengthen confidence and unity.
China will stand with the international community to implement the message of the G20 summit. We believe through common efforts, we will win this fight against COVID-19 and protect the health and well-being of all. Our production and life will be back to normal, and we will consolidate and deepen cooperation with all nations and stabilize the global economy to realize strong, sustainable, balanced, and inclusive growth.
While noting the shortage in medical resources, President Xi said China will provide assistance within its capacity to other countries, including the badly hit U.S. In addition, he pledged more efforts in information sharing, research, and ensuring economic stability. This came as the Chinese president shared views on containing cross-border transmissions.
The outbreak is our common enemy. All must work together to build the strongest global network of control and treatment that the world has ever seen. China has set up its online COVID-19 knowledge center that is open to all countries.
China's ties with the U.S. have been strained after Trump repeatedly used the term Chinese virus. In the phone call, Xi Jinping said he hoped the U.S. can take substantive actions to improve relations. Echoing that, Trump pledged personal efforts to help ward off distractions from cooperation, while noting the helpful medical experience provided by China. The Chinese leader also expressed concern for the health and safety of Chinese nationals in the U.S., students in particular. Trump said Chinese students are important to the American education sector and promised to protect Chinese citizens living in the U.S. Wang Qiwei, CGTN.
Stay with us as we bring you more news on Asia Outlook. The coronavirus pandemic has led to a lot of changes, especially in China. The internet has seen another boom as people watch movies and do their shopping online. Even fashion shows are taking advantage of live streaming. The 2020 Shanghai Fashion Week is taking place as scheduled, but online. CGTN Li Qing has more.
This is what Shanghai Fashion Week should be like. Models wearing the latest designs but the COVID-19 pandemic has made it impossible. However, the event is still taking place as scheduled, this time online. Although no audience members have access to this year's catwalks on-site, the shows might be able to attract the biggest number of viewers. The 2020 Shanghai Fashion Week has kicked off in cooperation with Alibaba Group's Tmall Marketplace, and every participating brand just presents their designs directly to digital device users through live streaming. Live streaming has been an important selling method on various e-commerce platforms in recent years. Hosts talk non-stop to introduce products online. And during this year's Shanghai Fashion Week, many brands are combining this selling model with traditional fashion show style. The Chinese brand Yes by Yeser is one of them. Through live streaming, viewers can enjoy the brand's spring-summer release on stage. At the same time, its main designer talks about the inspiration of each piece.
The newest Yes by Yeser release changes from a show stage with a small number of viewers to the online platform on Tmall. As the designer, I can share the brand's story with a bigger audience, which would only take place during press conferences before. The inspiration of this season's release is all about different faces. The transformation from offline to online is fresh and thrilling for me.
To consumers, they also get a whole new experience. Live streaming viewers now can tap into the latest trends of the designing world by watching fashion shows online. Rizhuo, a brand targeting young people, has released the Melting series. Inspired by dropping ice cream, every element of the design echoes the process of falling and melting.
It's not only the financial sectors. The fashion industry is also greatly influenced by the coronavirus outbreak. To me, hosting the Fashion Week online is of course a last resort, but an anticipated new effort. The live broadcast mode requires more from all of us.
The 2020 online Shanghai Fashion Week runs through the end of March, with 150 brands from over 30 countries and regions participating. Li Chong, CGTN.
The U.S. is one of the worst hit countries by the coronavirus, with New York State accounting for about half of its cases. With China seeing the first major outbreak and the disease spreading globally, there have been reports of racist attacks against Asians in the U.S. Cao Yu, a Chinese student at New York University, spoke more about this.
Starting from mid-February, the government occasionally talked about the virus, and some of local talk shows brought this up as well, but mostly by using the virus as the topic to make their show more interesting. At the end of February, the outbreak in the retirement home in Seattle, in Washington State, actually worried me, and I immediately ordered more food and supplies, groceries online just in case. A couple days later, on March 1st, they found this first case in New York City, and the second case they found in New York City was actually a community transmitted case. And that really scared the Chinese community. People, they went to Chinese supermarkets to buy groceries and buy food, but back that time, Americans didn't really care. The next day, I went to school with my mask on, and my professor told me I should not worry too much about it since this virus only hit the older generations. Until the announcement of the state emergency, that really finally made people to realize how severe the situation is. And this was not just a flu as what the government has been saying for over a month, and people finally start to pay attention to it. A lot of Chinese students feel really upset when the government is saying the masks do not protect, and this could put all of us in a very awkward and dangerous position because Americans believe their government definitely over us. The Chinese community definitely were treated unfairly, and the discrimination towards this whole community was definitely outrageous at the beginning. At least until I think recently, people are finally noticing how severe this situation is getting. And I heard some of the public spaces and public schools are going to be transferring to hospitals. Of course, I wanted to go back to China. From the very beginning, I was very careful and aware of what's going on around me, but I chose to stay because my life still goes on. I have to take online courses and classes. You know, I do not want to go to JFK at this point because the airport is filled with people from all over the world, all over the country, and this could bring potential threat back to China as well.
India has just started a 3-week nationwide lockdown, but many residents don't comply. So the police resorted to physical punishment for the violators.
For the next 3 weeks, all of India and its 1.3 billion people will be subject to a complete nationwide lockdown. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a televised address to the nation. Prime Minister Modi has said that every Indian must stay indoors, even if they're not sick and not displaying symptoms of COVID-19.
From midnight, there will be a complete lockdown in the whole country. There will be a total ban on venturing out of houses from midnight. To save India, to save every citizen of India, to save you and your family.
He's urged all Indians to forget what it's like to go outside for the next 21 days. He said the extreme measures were necessary because India must avoid what's happening in Italy and the United States right now, where cases have been increasing exponentially on a daily basis. He reminded Indians that developed nations with stronger healthcare facilities have been unable to stop the virus's spread, which is why it's imperative that India not wait for a mass breakout before implementing stricter measures. The Prime Minister's speech triggered panic buying in most parts of India. He later had to tweet to clarify that all essential services like pharmacies, hospitals, grocery stores will continue to operate. The government, though, is urging businesses to deliver essentials to the doorstep of citizens to limit the movement of people. The Indian government has also responded to criticism that India's healthcare system, with low funding and stretched resources, needs to be augmented. Prime Minister Modi said his government will be spending nearly $2 billion in the coming weeks on buying testing kits, hazmat suits, ventilators and training medical staff. India has some of the lowest testing rates in the world, but the government says mass testing is not needed right now because it will only lead to more panic on the ground. Neha Punia, CGTN, New Delhi.
In South Korea, police have taken the unusual step to identify the man they believe to be the leader of... What are you doing?
Yeah,
Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Okay, that's all. Sorry. 是我拿烟笔记的。 Oh, Carlos. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. In South Korea, police have taken the unusual step to identify the man they believe to be the leader of online sexual blackmail ring. The extreme details of the case led to a national outcry in a country still battling the coronavirus outbreak. CGTN Jack Barton has more from Seoul.
Public outrage has been growing here in South Korea after more than 70 women, including 16 underage girls, were allegedly tricked through online job ads into providing pornographic and sometimes violent photographs of themselves to perpetrators, chief among them, according to police, a 25-year-old man called Cho Ju-bin. Police allege Cho and others would then release the photographs if victims did not send even more explicit images of degrading acts, including carving the word slave into their skin. The photos were allegedly sold through chat rooms on Telegram, a popular encrypted social media site. With more than 260,000 followers, Cho is believed to have been South Korea's most active distributor of illegal video content on Telegram. On Monday, a petition by citizens insisting action must be taken reached 2.3 million, the number required for an official response from President Moon Jae-in's office, which did indeed respond, labelling the crimes a cruel act that destroyed human life.
President Moon asked the police to treat the case as a serious crime and conduct a thorough investigation to strictly punish the offenders. And he said that digital sex crimes involving children and teenagers especially should be dealt with more sternly.
Cho is believed to have secured information about women and underage girls, as well as Telegram chat room members, through aides at local administrative offices. Police say 124 suspects have been arrested and 18 operators of chat rooms on Telegram as well as other social media sites have been detained in relation to online sexual offences since September. Jack Barton, CGTN, Seoul.
The Iran Mall, Iran's biggest shopping center, will be used as a temporary hospital for COVID-19 patients. Let's take a look.
بنا به امکان و ظرفیت که داشتیم کمتر از یک هفته جهت اطلاع هموطنان شما با اینکه ما از شما الگو برداشتیم متعاقباً هدیه شد به مملکت ما و سایر دول.
The United Nations is launching a global humanitarian response to fight COVID-19 in the world's poorest countries. More than $2 billion will be spent to help people in South America, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. But there are concerns restrictions meant to protect staff could hamper the work. CGTN Sarah Walton has more.
COVID-19 has now been reported in nearly every country across the globe. And as it begins to spread more rapidly in the developing world, the concern is that countries with less well-funded healthcare systems and fragile economies will be the most severely impacted. The UN says it will focus on fighting the virus in the poorest countries.
We must come to the aid of the ultra-vulnerable, millions upon millions of people who are least able to protect themselves. This is a matter of basic human solidarity.
UN agencies and international NGOs will help deliver laboratory and medical supplies, install hand-washing stations in camps and settlements, and launch a public health information campaign. It's estimated the project will cost more than $2 billion, and wealthy countries are being asked to contribute.
We're seeing huge economic stimulus plans being developed around the world, and that's going to help. But it would be a smart strategy and an intelligent strategy for every developed country just to spend a little bit of their money on dealing with this problem in the most vulnerable places as well, because that is part of what you need to do if you want to protect yourself.
But the UN itself is now having to make adjustments to keep staff safe. The headquarters in New York is closed to all but essential workers, and the Security Council has cancelled some meetings and experienced technical glitches as it tries to continue its business over video conferencing. There are concerns the UN's effectiveness might be limited.
The importance of the UN is that it's a place where diplomats from around the world can come together, particularly from those countries that have fewer diplomatic resources. And so it might be possible for the United States and the United Kingdom and China, for example, to be having multilateral relationships. That's not necessarily as possible for maybe a country like Ghana or Suriname.
Some aid workers have been evacuated from host countries, while others have been affected by travel restrictions. The UN says it has issued new guidelines for staff and is asking the private sector to help provide enough masks and protective clothing.
Officials are currently planning for this humanitarian response to run until December, but they say it is difficult to predict how this virus will spread and affect people's lives across the world in the months ahead. Sarah Walton, CGTN, New York.
A doctor from northeast China's Heilongjiang province has been taking good care of elderly patients battling the novel coronavirus disease in a hospital of Wuhan, the capital city of central China's Hubei province. Thailand is ramping up the efforts to deal with the coronavirus pandemic. Its government is set to issue an emergency decree enabling further measures to slow the spread of the virus. The measures include imposing curfews, banning travel, and closing down buildings without warrants. The Southeast Asian nation now has over 800 confirmed cases and 4 deaths. A collaborative effort between Chinese billionaire Jack Ma and Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed will see the distribution of millions of donated test kits, medical masks, and protective suits to all 54 African countries. The kits that were donated by the Jack Ma Foundation have arrived in Addis Ababa and will be distributed across Africa in the coming days. CGTN Jerome Chala has more from Ethiopia.
The much anticipated medical kits aid from Jack Ma has just arrived here at Bole International Airport. This is 103,000 tons of mass testing kits and gloves delivered to Africa. The initiative, which made the delivery of these medical kits to the Addis Ababa hub a reality, is dubbed Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Jack Ma Initiative to Reverse COVID-19 from Africa. The medical aid, which includes test kits, masks, and protective suits, will be used to fight the spread of coronavirus in Africa.
So this shows the strong commitment and solidarity of these two countries and these two leaders to really bring a significant impact to reversing the outbreak of COVID in not only Ethiopia but also in the whole of Africa. So we are really grateful, and we believe this huge initiative will bring a big impact in the response activities that are being done by all countries.
I think these are in some ways a small donation, but in other ways it's a profound donation. It shows a deep and lasting relationship and partnership. It shows close ties between the countries, China, the foundation, the African countries. I think what it shows is that level of deep commitment that has been ongoing for some time and will continue to go on.
6 million masks, 1.1 million test kits, and 60,000 protective suits are received here. And Ethiopia will coordinate the delivery of these medical goods to respective African nations. Ethiopian Airlines will do that job in the next few days. What is written on Jack Ma Foundation sent cargo reads, "When people are determined, they can come over anything," a quote by Nelson Mandela. We have heard this medical aid is the first of its kind, and more of these kits are expected to arrive here soon enough to support Africa's effort in the fight against COVID-19 virus. Gurumtala CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
And that's all we have for today's Asia Outlook on MI Radio. Thank you for being with us. I'm Melody. We'll be back next week. Until next time.